Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me on this special edition of the Beatle Dave video. This is going to be like a bit of a questions and answers one. So about that. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that has sent in questions. I've had quite a lot of questions, so I don't think I'm going to be able to answer every one of them on this, but maybe we might do a part two, I don't know. So like I say, thank you to everybody that has took the time out to send me questions. I've got some on my laptop and some on my other phone, so it's might look a little bit weird, but I'm going to do the best I can. I don't want to make this too long, so it's going to probably hopefully be around the half an hour mark. But like I say, if I don't answer everybody's questions, I'm sorry. First up, we've got Mr. Ellie Records, my old mate. He's actually asked quite a few questions. He put, "Hi Dave, I have several questions for you. What are the 10 rarest records in your collection? Do you have a favourite Beatles album? How many records are in your collection right now? What exclusive gems are you still looking for?" So that's some good questions there. Like, my 10 rarest records might not be the 10 rarest records for the people around the world, but there's some, you know, they sort of like mean something to me being a Beatles collector in the UK. The first one is this copy of Abbey Road, which I've featured before. Excuse me. And the thing that makes this rare to me is it's an Indian copy, and it's on the yellow and black Parlophone label. In fantastic condition. Sounds really, really lovely album to listen to as well. So that is one of them. So that's one. These aren't in any particular order. They're not like how I'd place them. I'm just doing it for like quickness. The second one is, this is a German copy called Yeah Yeah Yeah, which is basically A Hard Day's Night. And this is in really, really nice condition. And it's on the golden red Odeon label. I think you'd call it that. Look at that, eh? Absolutely fantastic. Again, in really, really nice condition. Sounds amazing actually, that one, when you play it. And that's the sort of record where it doesn't matter if you play it on a mono setup or a stereo setup. Then we've got this one that I found just after our honeymoon, or on our honeymoon. The Beatles' second album featuring She Loves You and Roll Over Beethoven. The Beatles' second album, mega rare German export for military stationed in Germany. Quite a variation on values for this, depending on what sort of sites you got. And the only thing is that's been mipped there. Very, very hard to get. Looks a bit like the Beatles' Something New album, doesn't it? Yeah, but I've never, until I saw this, I'd never ever seen one of these. Prices for this go from like £50 up to a few £1,000. So that is side one, and that is side two. Again, when I got this, it looked like it had been in a box for years and years and years. I have cleaned it, and it does play absolutely fantastic. So that's another one. So there's a few like rare ones there. It depends what you mean by rare, doesn't it? This is one of the rarest ones that I have got, but in all honesty, I don't know if this is real or not. I've had this for many, many, many years. Must be getting on for 8, maybe 9 years. And it's a mono copy of the Beatles' White Album, which although they're sold in the millions all around the world, are actually still quite rare to get in the UK, which is a bit stupid. And as you know, the original ones were top loaders. They came with the black inner sleeves, the photos and the poster, and everyone was individually numbered, or so they said. Now this one is 0000320. You can see that there. I have took this to a few record fairs over the years, and a lot of dealers say that is a genuine thing and it's worth about £2,000. Others say that that's been doctored, so I don't know, but to me it is one of my favourite records, and this will always be like one of my treasures, because I didn't really pay a lot for it. So and it's a fantastic album anyway. It's probably one of my favourite Beatles albums of all time. Then I've got, this probably is one of the rarest ones in my collection, although this isn't in fantastic condition. It's a copy of Please Please Me by the Beatles, and it's a genuine first pressing on the black and gold Parlophone label. The cover's not exactly brilliant, but this is the one that's got the Dick James credits to it. I will get it out because it is worth looking at. It has got the original in the sleeve with it. Very, very well played, as in it's been played a lot. It's not bad, you know, it's not... To be honest, I don't think I'll ever get anything in better condition than this, because this is going for really, really stupid money at the minute. I think I paid something like £80 or £85 for this, from a record fair in Matlock about a year ago, to be honest. Again, it needed a good clean and everything, but the strange things about this is sometimes it will jump. It has a slight jump on Love Me Do and There's a Place, and then other times you play it, it don't jump. So I don't know, but it's only it's only a jump for fraction. It doesn't like go or anything. I mean, if you're just listening to this in the background, you probably wouldn't even hear it. But yeah, so that is like one of my holy grails. We've got another version of it here, and this is a rare South African version. Although it's in a UK sleeve. That's in the Ernest Day J & Co sleeve, by the way, which the originals would have come in an Ernest J Day & Co sleeve. Later copies came in a G&L sleeve. I will just show you this, just to show you the comparison. This is on a very, very similar label to the UK version. It's identical in all but one thing. That's silver and black, not gold and black. And this plays absolutely fantastic, really does. I have got another version of this as well, which is a New Zealand one, which is on a label very similar to that. I take it when you said various records in your collection, you did mean Beatles ones, because I didn't know how to put some Small Faces ones and things like that in here as well. The cover on that's not that good. Then I've got an original copy of Two Virgins by John and Yoko. The strange thing about this is it's got flip back sleeves. I've never ever seen another one of these anywhere in all my years of collecting that's got a flip back sleeve. It is a UK original first pressing, so you still get the sold in the UK and everything on it, and it was actually distributed by Track Records, not EMI, in the UK. I think I paid around £50 or something for this many years ago. Again, some of these can go for really stupid money nowadays, and I do mean stupid money. I'll do that when I've finished. Then we've got a copy of the original Let It Be box set from 1970. This is identical to the UK one. The only difference is this is a South African one, so the catalogue number on this is PXSJ1. The contents and the album and everything exactly the same as the UK version. It's even in a UK outer sleeve, to be honest. Again, really, really nice record. Very, very hard to come by nowadays. I should have organised this a bit better, shouldn't I? This is the UK version. So I'm looking at, I'm lucky I've got a UK version and a South African version. This isn't in brilliant nick. The record and everything's in fantastic nick, and so is the book and everything, but this is starting to come away there, look. And then last but not least, again, this is one of my holy grails. It really is. And it's original UK copy of John and Yoko's wedding album, and I only got this a few weeks ago fantastic. It's one of those things I've always wanted from when I started collecting records. Don't know why, because it's not something you're going to listen to that often, is it? But the presentation and everything that's in this, you get books, you get posters and everything, is fantastic. The only downside is the actual album is shit. It's crap. But it is still very, very rare to get, especially UK copy. I think the American copies of this are more common than the UK versions, to be honest. So that's my 10 most rarest records. Do I have a favourite Beatles album? It changes, to be honest. 9 times out of 10 it's the Beatles White Album, but I do love Abbey Road and I do love Rubber Soul as well. But I'd say if I'd got to pick one, it would be the Beatles White Album. How many records are in my collection right now? Everything, not just Beatles stuff. Around, this is just albums, around about 5,500, maybe 6. And then I've got thousands of singles and stuff like that as well. But like I say, you know, I've been a collector for many, many years, although most of this collection here has been built up over the last 10 years. What exclusive gems are you still looking for? Wow, that is a good question, actually. What am I still looking for? The one that I wouldn't mind, and when it came out, it was dead easy to get, was the Let It Be Naked album on vinyl. I've got it on CDs and stuff like that. But now you try and get on album and you're talking probably £200, maybe £300. I don't know why. Other things I'm still looking for is obviously the Beatles recent mono LP box set. I wish I'd got that when it came out, because at the time I did actually get offered it. But I thought they was asking a little bit too much for it, because they wanted more than what it was in the shops at the time. Or, you know, it would have been in the shops. Or this was like probably a year after. For £500. I should have snapped his hand off, shouldn't I? But the downside on that is I've got all those albums on mono anyway. So, but yeah, that is the one that if I could get it for a decent price and I could afford it, I would get it. So I hope that's answered all your questions, Mr. Ellie Records, and I hope you're doing well. Because you live in Israel, don't you? The next question, so I hope that's okay. The next question is from Judge Drock. I think that's how I pronounce it. I posted a few questions on your latest request, but here are one or two. If you had to choose one of the Beatles studio albums over all the others, sets of Beatles albums over all the others, would you go for the British set, the mixed up US set, or the Japanese set of Beatles studio LPs, and why? I always prefer the British albums, but that's because I live in Britain, and I think the original mono albums you can't be up to, you know, from Please Please Me up to the White Album. I think this is no disrespect to other albums that were released around the world. I think at the time they were the best ones to actually get. I have got a few Japanese pressings as well, which do sound amazing. I've always liked the American albums as well, but if I had to choose, I would say the British albums, mate. Yeah. 2, Beatles bootlegs. This is a bit of a grey area, isn't it? Beatles bootleg albums. Do you collect them? Is there a favourite, and what is your favourite officially unreleased song to be found on a bootleg album? I do collect Beatles bootlegs. I don't go out looking for them on purpose, but if I ever find them in the cheap enough, I will sort that bottom. Excuse me one sec. And I think my favourite actual Beatles bootleg album is the Sessions album, which is, these are both the same album, by the way. That's made out to look like a German version. This is what they reckon that the UK version would have looked like. And my favourite Beatles bootleg recording on a bootlegs album is actually on this, and it is which one is it? Yeah, it is on here, isn't it? Yeah, it's George's version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is a hell of a lot like a more acoustic sort of version than the rock version that was on the White Album. And the second, and my second and third favourite Beatles bootleg songs are also on this, which is Leave My Kitten Alone and another George Harrison song called Not Guilty, which should have been on the White Album. Right, what's your third question? Do you wonder what the Beatles band... What does that say? Do you ever wonder what the Beatles band would have been like if they didn't lose Stuart Sutcliffe and ditch Pete Best and they were in a band for life along with John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison? That's a hard one, isn't it? Because it's all to do with hindsight and what you believe. No disrespect to Ringo when I say this, but I think at the time that they sacked Pete Best, I don't think Ringo was a better drummer than Pete Best. I don't think he was a worse drummer than Pete Best. I'd say they were roughly on par. Stuart Sutcliffe, unfortunately, I mean, he passed away, didn't he? I think if Ringo hadn't been in the band, I do think the Beatles would have done something, but I don't think they would have been probably, well, they wouldn't have been as famous as what they are now. But like I say, this is all in hindsight, isn't it? But I don't think their career would have gone on for as long as what their career did. I think they'd have probably made a few singles and maybe a couple of albums. That's my own personal opinion. You've probably got your own. So I hope that's answered your questions. Now I've got to go onto my phone, my other phone. Just bear with 1 second. Right. Bear with 1 sec. Right, this one is from Mitchell McCorland, I think that's how I pronounce his name, and he's put, 1. Do you have any non-UK Beatles EPs in your collection, and if so, which ones sound best? I have got a few, I haven't got many. I've just sorted some out. There's this one, which I think is Spanish, and it's the Beatles, and it's Rock and Roll Music, Babies in Black, No Reply, and I'm a Loser. DSOE 16641. I think it's Spanish anyway. It does say something about Barcelona on it, yeah. So, and it's on Odeon, it's Spanish version. I don't know if this is an original or a reissue, but this one does actually sound really, really nice. Not quite on par with the British EPs, I must have to say that. But they're not terrible to listen to. That's what I'll say about that one. You know, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because if you live in Spain, and this is from Spain, that's probably as common as anything to you. But here in the UK, that is actually quite rare. Then we've got this one, which is You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Yesterday, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and You Like Me Too Much, which I think is, no, so I'm not quite sure where that one's from. It's on Odeon, and it's SOE 7372, I think. The cover's not brilliant. All these have been played, but I might not play them in a while. I don't know. I think that's French. I think it's French, but I'm not 100% sure. That looks like it's a bit yellowy, but it's actually an orange label. That one does sound really nice, by the way, as well. Yeah, that's one to look out for on your travels. Obviously, if you live in France, that's probably quite cheap to get. Then we've got Help, I'm Down, Not a Second Time Until There Was You, which I always thought was a strange sort of like thing to put onto one EP, because a lot of the, you know, 2 of the songs are really, really old, aren't they? They were old. How did you get in this? Oh, there. I think this might be a Spanish one as well. So side 1 is Help and I'm Down. Lando 1 or something, it says on there. And then the B side is Not a Second Time Until There Was You, which was from 1963, wasn't it? So seems a bit of a strange coupling to me. Again, this does, it says Odeon 33 Compacto. Because some of these in other countries was classed as mini LPs, weren't they? That one does sound good though. That one really does sound nice. It's just a bit of a strange pairing with them two from 1963 on the back of it. That's not an EP. Then there's this one, which I think is, yeah, this one's French one. It's paperback writer EP. So you get paperback writer and Rain, and then you get the word and Nowhere Man. And out of the ones I've shown you so far, this is probably the best sounding, to be honest. There is the best sounding. I think this might be a slightly later issue. So on side one you get paperback writer and the word. It's a word I'm thinking of. Then on the B side you get Rain and Nowhere Man. But I've saved the best till last, to be honest. That one's quite ditched anyway. I won't bother with that one. That one's scratched. This is a German version of the Magical Mystery Tour double EP. It's on a green Odeon label. And I'd say this is one where, again, this is only my opinion, but this actually sounds better than the UK version. But like I say, that is just my opinion. It's fantastic sounding at EP actually. So I hope that's answered your questions. I think that was the only questions, wasn't it? Let's have a look. That was on the phone one, wasn't it? I'm sorry, but I haven't really been able to organise this. I was going to postpone it because I've actually been off work bad. I've actually got gout, so I couldn't even get up the stairs up until today. I don't want your sympathy. Let's have a look. Done that one, done that one. Right, one here from Andrew, my mate that I met at the Derby Record Fair, and has put, what pressings of Beatles albums from around the world give you most satisfaction sound wise? Do you prefer stereo or mono recordings, or vice versa? Right, well, I've sort of like already answered this, but I prefer the British original British pressings from the 60s, and I do like them in mono. That is my go-to thing, would be a original British mono pressing. But I do like the American albums, I like the Japanese albums. There's some wicked German albums as well that you can get. There's a fantastic German album or German version of Magical Mystery Tour that I still haven't got, which sounds a hell of a lot better than the UK version and the American version. So yeah, Andy, I hope that that has answered your question. Oh, hang on, you have to read more on the bottom of that, haven't they? Are there any CDs that you think equal or surpass the vinyl versions? In all honesty, no, I don't. I'm not against CDs. I've recently just got back into CDs after many years, because for the past, before this year, I only used to listen to CDs in my car. I do think that there is some brilliant versions on CDs of Beatles albums, but I don't think they're I don't think they're better than the original mono versions. Again, that is just my opinion. So I hope that has answered your question. Toby Jackman, this is a brilliant question actually, and I had to think deep and hard about this, and I still don't know what the answer is going to be even now. He's put, if you could only save one of your collection from a burning building, which one would it be? Which one would it be? Well, I'd make sure that my missus and the animals are out the house first. So saving a record wouldn't be uppermost on my list of things to do, really. But if I could only save one, it would probably be this one. the black and gold UK copy of Please Please Me, even though this isn't in brilliant condition. And if it wasn't that, it'd probably be the John and Yoko wedding album, to be honest, which probably is not everybody's cup of tea, I know that, but you know, you've asked me the question, so I'm just answering it as honest as I can. What else we got? Oh, Beatleman 69. Hey up, mate. I hope you're okay. Out of the last 3 Ringo Starr albums from the 1970s, which is your favourite and least favourite? My favourite is probably Ringo the Fourth, to be honest. I think there is some brilliant songs on that, although I do like Bad Boy as well. I think Ringo the Fourth is a very, very underrated song. Album. Just bear with 1 sec, because I need to get something, because I forgot about this one. Ooh. And if I had to pick a least favourite one, it'd be this one. Mainly because I can never bloody pronounce the title right. Ringo's Rotogravia. Although there is some great songs on this. I mean, A Dose of Rock and Roll is fantastic. Pure Gold is okay. Cooking in the Kitchen of Love is fantastic. I Still Love You was written by George, wasn't it? And it is a brilliant song, although originally George wanted Cilla Black to record it. But I'd say that is the one I like the least, although I do still like it. And this door, by the way, this door here, the original 3 Savile Row Apple Building door, we've actually seen this. It's in the British Music Experience in Liverpool. So thank you for that question. You even brought a little memory back for me there. I think Ringo gets a hard time or hard press sometimes. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just Ringo. And I don't think some of his albums ever get the appreciation that they should. I've said this about Sentimental Journey and things like that. They're fantastic albums, but nobody seems to like them, or if they do, you like in the minority if you like them. Done that one. Nick's Final Butty. Hey up, mate. You've left me about 5, you have. Right, you've put why the Beatles. I presume that means why I like the Beatles, or I started collecting the Beatles. That goes back to 1980, to be honest. But before that, I mean, I've been buying records since 1975, when I was 8 or 9. I think the first single I ever went and bought out on my own was a Shawaddy Waddy single, to be honest. But I could never really afford albums. So I think it was something like, I don't know, I seem to think it was Under the Moon of Love, but I don't think it was that one. I think it was the one before that. Hey Rock and Roll, something like that. We did have records in the house. My mum and dad, they weren't collectors, but my mum and dad were like old, well, not old, they were brought up on rock and roll, so we always had things like Buddy Holly, the Everly Brothers, Gene Vincent, Little Richard, Elvis. But then my dad also liked things like Johnny Mathis and Roger Whittaker, and then my mum would like things like The Sound of Music, and you know, so we always had a vast variety of music in the house. My sister liked things like the Osmonds and Donny Osmond, and then she got into things like Status Quo and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I just used to listen to anything, and then I got into punk, and then after John Lennon died, that's how I got into the Beatles. I didn't really know who the Beatles were before John Lennon was killed. I sort of like knew the odd song like Hey Jude and Yellow Submarine, because you used to sing Yellow Submarine at school, didn't you? But I never really associated John Lennon with that for some reason. So that's why the Beatles. What Beatles records do you crave for the most? Like I said, I'd still want an original vinyl copy of the Let It Be Naked album. Whether I'll ever get one, probably not, because they go for really stupid money. The other one is an original copy of Yesterday and Today. I've got a couple of counterfeits or fakes, or whatever you want to call them. But again, they go for thousands of pounds sometimes. I wouldn't mind a better or a nicer copy of the original Please Please Me album on black and gold parlophone label. I mean, I've got one, but it's not in fantastic condition. I'd still like an individual UK version of Life with the Lions by John and Yoko. I have got an American copy, but I haven't got the British copy. What else is it? The mono box set, I wouldn't mind getting, but again, that goes for really, really stupid money. The one that I have been looking at just lately, although that seems to be going for a bit like stupid money now, is the D'Agostini complete collection. So that's 2 boxes. I think it's 23 albums. You get some goodies with it, like a cup and a bag and things like that. I was looking at one, and I did met the bloke an offer, and it was a good offer, and he goes, "Oh no, you're way off the mark. I want about £2,000 for it." And I'm thinking, well, why have you put it on? You know, why don't you put that you want £2,000 for it? I won't pay that much for it. And again, there's nothing new for me in that, really, because I've got all the records. I mean, I've got original British mono and stereo Beatles LPs. I've got the reissues from the 70s and the 80s. I've got some of the D'Agostini ones up there as well. You know, I've got loads of CDs of the Beatles as well. Some of the newer Beatles albums, purists don't like, because they say it's not really an analog LP, it's a digital copy from a CD master. Might be, I don't know. I just listen to them. I mean, on some of them you can tell because they sound more compressed and things like that. But yeah, my thoughts on Yoko Ono. Oh, that's... I think you're trying to get me into trouble here, aren't you, Nick? There's a lot of people that think Yoko Ono was the worst thing that happened to John Lennon, right? You know, he'd got Cynthia and he'd got a lad, little boy Sean, not Sean, Julian. And then people say, but if he hadn't have met her, the Beatles would have carried on. I don't know whether they would or not. Nobody does, do they? All I'll say is, in some ways, she wasn't the best thing for John, but in other ways she was, because she, like, said to him, you can do what you want. You don't have to be Beatle John. You can just be John Lennon and do whatever you want. So I think in that way it was good for him to let him express himself. And I think he did love her. In a lot of ways, because she was quite a bit older than him, wasn't she? I think, was it his substitute mother? Because he used to call her mother, didn't he, as well? I don't know. I mean, I'm just summarising here because I've never met the woman. I don't think she's as bad as what some books make her out to be. And don't forget, she's very, very ill at the minute as well. Let's just say she gave him the artistic freedom that he wouldn't have got if he hadn't met her. So no, I don't particularly, I wouldn't say I'm a biggest fan, but I don't hate her. I don't hate her at all, you know. And, you know, she, like I said, let him be himself, didn't she, really? But I think Cynthia let him be himself as well, you know. It's a bit like chalk and cheese, isn't it? Especially when you look at Cynthia and you look at Yoko. They're 2 completely different types of women, aren't they? You know, I'm not trying to say one's better than the other or one's worse than the other, by the way, you know, but that's, you know, I think Yoko's all right. And, you know, after John died, I think she did calm down a bit, and, you know, Paul McCartney did start to be friendly with her again, and so did George and so did Ringo. So, you know, if they'd have all, you know, thought of it as a lot of the books say, I don't think they would have ever spoke to her again. And I don't think she broke up the Beatles either. I think the Beatles broke up the Beatles is the basic thing on that. I think nowadays, if the Beatles were going nowadays, I think after the release of Let It Be, I think they would have just had a year off. You know, which is common practice now. You know, when the Beatles were out, they used to do 2 albums a year, didn't they, and things like that, and 3 or 4 singles sometimes. But then you look at artists now, they might not release an album for like every 5 or 6 years. So I think they needed a break from each other, but I don't think when it first happened that they thought it'd be permanent. That's just my thoughts on that, Nick. What else have you put? I'm sorry I'm having to read this off my other phone. Is Sergeant Pepper really the greatest album of all time? Because you prefer Abbey Road and you're not even a Beatles fan. I think Sergeant Pepper, how can I put this, was of its time, and it was completely different for the Beatles to do, wasn't it? Because they don't even sound like the Beatles on it, do they? They sound like a completely different band. They'd progressed that much from Love Me Do up to that point. I think it's a fantastic album. I'm not going to slag it off because it is a great album. It is a really, really fantastic album. Song for song, though, I think Revolver is just as good as it, and song for song, I think Abbey Road is just as good as it. I can understand why people hail it as the greatest thing ever, because it was so different when it was released at the time. Again, that is just my thoughts on it. You know, there's some songs on there I really, really like. The songs on Sergeant Pepper's, or sorry, the Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, that I don't think are really that good. You know, yeah. I don't think it's the greatest album the Beatles ever made, just put like that. You know, it's a close second or third in my rankings, it'd be put like that. What you put there? Does your wife think you're a bit of a Beatles nutter? Yeah, but she's very, very understanding. That's all I'll say. She's very, very understanding. I mean, I've only been with Sue since 2015. I just come out of a really, really horrible relationship. She'd just come out of a really, really horrible relationship. We met one another, and the last thing we was looking for was to get hooked up together, sort of thing. But we met and something just clicked like that. She lets me do what I want as long as I don't waste all my money on records, you know, and the bills are still being paid. She's not really bothered what I do. We're quite good together because we like to do a lot of things together, but we've also got our own sort of like hobbies. Like mine is the Beatles and record collecting and things like that, making YouTube videos. Sue likes potting around in the garden and planting flowers and plants and things like that. She's a very, very talented lady. I think if she'd have had more encouragement when she was younger, she would have been an artist. I mean, this T-shirt, Sue's actually made this. This isn't a transfer. Sue made this for me yesterday. It's good, isn't it? She's a fantastic drawer and things like that, you know. And she's my rock mate, to be honest. Without her, I don't know. I don't even think I'd be here, to be honest. But that's ancient history now, isn't it, sort of thing. But your last question made me laugh. Your last question did make me laugh. If John Lennon got on my bus and didn't have enough money for his ticket, would you kick him off the bus? See, you'd have been better putting something like Ringo Starr or even Paul McCartney on that, because John can't get on my bus, can he? But let's say he wasn't dead and he got on my bus. I'd let him travel for free. I'd just get an autograph off him. I would, honestly. That's the honest answer. It's a hypothetical question, isn't it? Yeah, but you actually have made me think a bit different. Your questions have been a bit different, and they're really, really good, Nick. So that's it. I think that's all we've got time for, to be honest. So I hope that's answered the questions that everybody's put in. If I haven't made your question out, by the way, I will apologise. It's probably because there's a lot of questions that was similar. So yeah, I love collecting the Beatles. I've been collecting Beatles records since the end of 1980, but I've been collecting records since on and off since 1975. Long time ago. I'm only 26, so I don't know how I've done that. No, I'm not. I'm a lot older than 26. Yeah, so thank you to everybody that bothered to Thank you to everybody that took the time to send the questions. I hope you got the answers you were looking for. There were some really, really interesting questions in there. Actually, I've actually really enjoyed doing this, and I think I might do another one where we might do it, but it won't just be about the Beatles, and then, you know, people like you, Nick, could ask me about Madness or Sex Pistols or anything like that then as well, couldn't you? But I've really enjoyed doing this. It's took my mind off me get out for a bit as well. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody that took the time out. I hope you're all well and dandy out there in Beatles world and YouTube world, and you know, the VC and things like that. Also, thank you to everybody that's subscribing, by the way, and leaving me comments. You're, you know, I do really appreciate it. You are all the Beatle Dave. You know, without you, we wouldn't be able to do things like this. Something a little bit different, something to get us all talking and interact, sort of thing. The next one I might do a live one though. But the only thing with that is you might get people like, if I'm reading one question, then somebody else, you know, it can go up and up and up, and then I can ask questions, which I thought this was the best way to do this one, was to like pre-record it. So I hope you're happy with it. And that's it. So whatever you're doing, please stay safe. Remember, Beatle Dave loves you. I've really enjoyed doing this, and so until the next time, cheerio.